guys, welcome to She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at Szczesny. So on today's show, we're going to be talking all about Bissouma. We're going to be calling this the Bissouma cast because we're being linked with Yves Bissouma, and I'm hoping that he comes to the Emirates. You guys know I love the guy. So yeah, we're going to be talking about Bissouma and all the ins and outs about what kind of player he is, where he came from, what it would take for us to be able to bring him to the Emirates, and talk a little bit about Szczesny at the end. There's some links with us to Szczesny from Juventus. Obviously, he used to be an Arsenal player. And I think that'll just open up a bigger conversation about the goalkeeper situation at Arsenal. But first, let's talk about Yves Bissouma. So if you're in the chat box, let me know. And let me know where you're watching in from and what you think about Bissouma and the rumors about us being linked to him. Do you think it's likely? Is he the right profile? Would you rather see somebody else? All that good stuff. Just let me know you're watching, and we will go ahead and get started. So Bissouma joined Brighton from Lille in 2018 for about 18 million. He's Malian from Mali, and his contract ends in 2023. He's 24 years old, and he's being linked with Liverpool, Manchester United, and Arsenal. And that makes sense to me because I think Liverpool, over the last year, with all of their injuries, they're probably noticing that they need some reinforcements in the midfield area. They'll be losing Wijnaldum. I don't think they really know what's going to be going on with Oxlade-Chamberlain and Naby Keita, two players that are pretty injury prone. So they'll need some backup in those positions. Milner is a little bit on the older side. So even though they have Fabinho and Thiago, they probably need another rotational option. Also being linked with Manchester United makes complete sense. Right now, Manchester United is using the combination of Scott McTominay and Fred to basically combine to become one CDM. If they were able to bring in a CDM that has all of the qualities that the two of them have, then they would be able to play an additional offensive person, maybe Paul Pogba, Bruno Fernandes, and that person, and still feel a little bit more secure in the midfield. So it would make sense to me that they would be linked with Bissouma too. And of course, we're linked with him. And for me, it makes all the sense in the world for us to be linked to a CDM. Although we brought in Thomas Partey, I think it's important for us to understand the difference between, a CDM and Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey is more of a box-to-box that can add a little bit more in terms of our ball progression, whereas Bissouma will sit in deep and sit in front of the back line and just really break up play. So it's a little bit different. And bringing in a CDM will allow us to get the best out of Thomas Partey, but we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. So Bissouma is the type of player he's described as a center midfielder, but he plays CDM for Brighton. And he usually sits deep in the midfield on the left side of a double pivot, usually with Pascal Gross or Adam Lallana, or in just a single pivot by himself, which is important. And we'll just go over some of his who scored information here. So I just wanted to kind of pull some of the numbers up to see how he kind of compares with some of our midfielders. But ultimately, he's played 2,754 minutes in the Premier League this season, and he has about 0.4 key passes. His passes per game is 46.5, and his passing accuracy is 87%. And he has about 2 long balls per game, which isn't bad at all. His key strengths are tackling, which is important. It's listed as very strong, and his other strong strength, or obviously if your strength is strong, but his other strength is dribbling, which is important because his ball retention is really, really good. One of his weaknesses is discipline, which is important, for us to make sure we make a key note of, because we've been known to be an ill-disciplined team. So having somebody with a discipline weakness could be detrimental, but I also feel like it's because of the position that he plays. Most CDMs that play at a high level get a lot of yellow cards, sometimes red cards. Fernandinho picks up a lot of them. Ndidi picks up a lot of them. When Thomas plays CDM, he picks up a lot of them. So it's just the nature of the beast being somebody who's supposed to be protecting the back line. So a lot of times discipline or weak discipline goes into, you know, like it could be misconstrued into them being a hothead or something like that, but it's really not that. It's just when you're the last line of defense before the defense and you're making a lot of last ditch tackles and a lot of systematic fouls and things like that, you get a lot more yellow cards. His style of play is listed as likes to shoot from distance. I'm sure um, it's I won't say it's Thomas Party like, but he doesn't score a lot of goals. So his shooting from distance is not something that I think we would be looking forward to. He likes to dribble. Again, I've mentioned his ball retention and his ability to, to keep the ball from deep, which is important if you're getting the ball off of the back line and we're building up from the back. Your dribbling and your ball retention needs to be really good. He likes to tackle, which is important because we don't actually have a natural CDM who breaks up play and he commits fouls often. So that's what I was talking about, the yellow cards and that kind of stuff that really comes with that type of position. So let's see what you guys are saying right now. FK says you had me at Bissouma. Exactly. Like, I love this guy. Oh, thank you. You guys are so sweet. Sean says we need to get rid of the fraudulent Ceballos. I don't even want to hear that name anymore. Deborah Ducky says, does Party score enough goals, or do you think we don't need him to? Goals from midfield is definitely a weakness. It's definitely a weakness. But, we'll talk about the composition of our midfield options in a minute, a little bit more towards the end. But if you have a pivot of Thomas Partey and Yves Bissouma, whoever plays in front of them needs to be able to contribute with goals because neither of them do. Or you need to have a rotational option that's more of like a Ramsey type that gets into the box. But that's where having a Bissouma would come in handy for us because you can play in a single pivot and you can play with two more progressive midfielders in front of him. So the composition of our midfield needs to be a lot more strategic, and it needs to give us the ability to mix and match, which we don't have at the moment. AK Gunner says, I would prefer Dennis Zakaria from Gladbach. He can play DM, deep line playmaker, or box-to-box midfielder. He'd be a good partner for both Xhaka and Partey, and his ceiling is high. Yeah, he's the ideal partner for Xhaka, of course, because they play together in the Swiss national team. He's a very good player, athletic. I think he had a long-term injury, so I haven't seen him play a lot for Gladbach this season, but I wouldn't mind him either. I think his price tag would actually be higher than Bissouma's at the moment. So, but he would be a really good option as well. All right. So now that we kind of talked about Bissouma just in general, I wanted to go over just kind of like the difference between him and Thomas and the difference between him and Granit. So Bissouma, we kind of said that he has about 46 passes per game, and his passing accuracy, his percentage is 87%. And let's see, offensively, he doesn't really have that. He doesn't have good stats offensively because we all know that he's mostly just a deep. He plays more deep and more defensive. But Thomas's passing accuracy is about the same, 87%, and average passing is 49% or 49 passes per game. About 3 long balls per game. Yves Bissouma usually has about 2, so they're really not that far away from each other. And 0.5 key passes, Bissouma has 0.4. Thomas's strong points are his dribbling, his aerial duels, his ball interception, and his tackling. His weaknesses are concentration and discipline. Concentration, I can agree with that. He says it's very weak. He does lack concentration. His discipline, again, also it's in connection with playing in a midfield role where you're expected to break up play. But so I think that's where you would think like, okay, they're really similar. Their numbers are similar, but that's because we're not using Thomas Partey to the best of his abilities. If you have Yves Bissouma next to him, then Thomas is more of the orchestrator. Right now in our midfield, Xhaka is doing the orchestrating. He's doing the majority of the passing and the ball progression. And when you allow Xhaka to be that person, you limit yourself. If you trust Thomas to do it, yes, he's going to lose the ball, and his accuracy is probably not going to be 97%, but that's because he tries more progressive passes, more risky passes in between the lines. And I think in order to look, you don't pay $45 million release clause for Thomas Partey to have him sitting in a single pivot or even a double pivot, really just protecting the back line. You want him to be able to actually be box to box and progress the ball. A lot of Arsenal fans refer back to the Manchester United game because that was the game that we really saw him break the lines and progress the ball and keep the ball and get us up the pitch. He hasn't done that as much, but that's really what you get when you have somebody sitting next to him who's tasked with just sitting in front of the defense, as El Neni was doing. And so that is kind of the template that we need to kind of instill for us to be a more competitive midfield. So that's really, for me, the upgrade on Xhaka is not necessarily a Xhaka-like player, but somebody who will allow Thomas Partey to be the focal point of our midfield, allow him to do what he does best while making sure that the defense is locked down, which is exactly what Bissouma can do. Because if you look at Granit Xhaka's numbers, he is, I mean, Thomas and Bissouma are at about 50 passes per game. Xhaka averages 72 passes a game. So he's the orchestrator in all of this. His passing percentage is closer to 90%. Key passes are 0.5, which means he's actually not getting forward enough to break lines. And that's an issue as well. We need somebody to get a little bit more forward, be a little bit more progressive. And he attempts about 4.3 long balls. So I think that's pretty much where we need to shift our thought process, is moving Xhaka out of the starting kind of positions. I actually don't have an issue with Xhaka being more of a rotational option, but I think as a starting pivot, I would prefer Bissouma and Thomas playing more of a box-to-box role and getting forward a little bit more and progressing us up the pitch. Both Bissouma and Thomas Partey are press resistant, and they progress the ball really well and keep the ball, and they can dribble past that initial line of pressing and get us to the next step. And that's going to be really important for us if we want to be able to build out of the back, or if teams are pressing us really high. If we don't have players that are press resistant, what we end up doing is kicking the ball long, and we don't have focal points up top to really hold the ball for us. So we need players that can hold on to the ball and progress us forward and be confident. And once you do that a couple of times, you gain the respect of the other team, then they stop pressing you as much because they know it's a lost cause. Let's see. Tony's saying, hey, Jess, is Bissouma complete enough to pair with any of our midfielders, or does he only pair with one or two? I mean, do we really want Bissouma pairing with our midfielders? I think El Neni is somebody that eventually we'd probably move on from, and Danny Ceballos is on his way out. So you have Thomas and you have Granit Xhaka. I think Bissouma could play with either of them and make them better. But I think the next step is also bringing in a deeper lying 8 that's a little bit more progressive. I hate to say it, somebody more like Awa. If Awa was in the complement of the complement of our midfielders of Thomas, Bissouma, Awa, and maybe like Odegaard, Smith Rowe, then we have a more complete group of midfielders that can mix and match to suit different games and different tactics. Right now, we don't have that. And we also need somebody else a little bit more athletic, because if something happens to Thomas, we lose all athleticism in that midfield, and that's not good. Hey, Deluded. If you guys didn't see earlier, I did a video with Deluded, and it was so much fun. So make sure you guys go and check that out afterwards. Imtiaz says, Bissouma has the right mix of Xhaka and Partey. Bissouma allows Partey to break lines further up the pitch. Exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to say. And Taha says Xhaka can't do a rotational role. It changed the style of play too much. I don't foresee him going anywhere, and I don't think it would kill us to keep him for another year. He just can't be the focal point. He can't be the first person on the team sheet anymore. So if he just naturally fell off, over time, I wouldn't be that upset by it. But we definitely need more midfielders and different types of midfielders. Yo-Yo says Jacques has been heavily relied upon with Luis out of the team. Yeah, that's true. And I just think it's just because We don't have any other leaders per se, and he has the passing range that David Luiz has from the back. And sometimes when you get pinned, you need somebody to be able to switch the play. And we don't have anybody in our back line besides David Luiz who can do a big switch. And the only other person that can do it is Granit Xhaka. So we need midfielders that can midfield. They need to have good passing range. They need to be able to hit long balls, short balls, balls in between the lines. And we probably are looking for a right-sided center back that has a big switch as well if David Luiz doesn't hang around for long. What I know about Saliba at the moment is that he doesn't have that big switch in his locker. So I'm not sure if that's going to be something that deters Arteta from using him, because he really doesn't have that range of passing. He can dribble out of the back, but he doesn't have a long switch, and that's something that we'll probably need. Let's see. AK Gunner says, I think we should prioritize our transfer budget on midfielder who can score goals and maybe create big chances, i.e. Bruno Fernandes, Madison, Grealish. I cannot see spending big on two midfielders. That's a really, really good point. And I think it depends a lot on Odegaard, what we can do with him. Personally, I think we need to open up a dialogue about Odegaard and whether or not he is a $40 to $50 million midfielder at this point, that we need to invest in him. I like him a lot, but at this moment, he's not $40 to $50 million worth. But Bissouma is worth 30 million. That's what it would take to get Bissouma to the Emirates. So whoever's available and within our grasp, we know we need both kinds. We need both midfielders, but who's actually available to us? We're still not even sure, is Real Madrid even open to selling Odegaard? So there's definitely that. So I really do think that Bissouma is the right profile to bring in. It may not be the most exciting choice at the moment because we're looking for goals from midfield. We want to see more offense. I think we really want to have, like you said, a player like Bruno Fernandes, Madison, that type of player. But we need this player. We need this player because if Thomas gets injured, we're back to square one. We're back with Xhaka and El Neni / Ceballos in our midfield. And that really changes the dimension of our midfield. It really makes us so much more, I don't want to say pathetic, but we're just not as competitive with those midfielders. So I think we do need a Bissouma type, and I don't really see another midfielder of a similar type that would give us the same results. There's a lot of midfielders out there that are athletic, that can break up play, but there's levels to it. And if they come from different leagues, we're not sure if they're going to be able to adapt. And that's one of my biggest fears at the moment, is because we actually have to get almost every single one of our transfers spot on. And if we were to bring somebody from the French league and they need so much time to adapt, or they never adapt, and we spent 25 million on them when we could have just spent 30 on Bissouma, I just feel like it just makes sense to get the Premier League proven player. We know what we're getting. We've seen him. We see him all the time. And he may not be the most exciting, but he's definitely a profile that we need moving forward. Velvishwan says Renato Sanchez and Bissouma are our players. Arsenal, don't you dare go after them. Arteta will find you. I think I just pulled up, it's like 90 Min did a ranking based on like bets. Who's Bissouma's most likely let me just read the title so I don't bottle it. Potential next destinations for Yves Bissouma ranked. Number 6 was Real Madrid. Number 5 was Man United. Number 4 was Tottenham. Number 3 was Liverpool. Number 2 was Leicester City. And number 1 is Arsenal. So I think it's more likely for him to come to us than to you, because again, I think you're looking for backups. I don't think you're looking for starters. You have Thiago and Fabinho. You don't need another CDM in there. You actually need a cam to me more than a CDM. So I'd be surprised if you guys actually went for him when you know you need a creative midfielder and you're already getting a defender. What else do you guys need, Velvishwan? Let's see. Tony says, looking for a David Luiz replacement might be tough. Should we replace his big switch with a CM that could also switch? I mean, that could work. There's I think his name is Coop Miners. I think he plays for like PSV. You guys will correct me. But last time I looked at him, he was basically like a younger, more mobile version of Xhaka that has a very wide passing range. He's definitely not a busy midfielder. He's more of a deep line playmaker, but he would kind of fit the bill. But for the big switch, we do need a player that has it, but it's just I don't really want another Xhaka, somebody who's just a deep line playmaker. I think we need more busy, robust, you know, we need midfielders that can run. We need midfielders that can play the basketball game. They need to be able to go coast to coast. They need to be able to go box to box. And right now, I don't see any deep line playmakers with a big switch that aren't really similar to Xhaka. Yo-Yo says the forwards will be freer with improvements at center back and right back, or center midfield and right back, in my opinion. That's true. That's very true. I think we need if we have more mobile people in those positions that can track, then you can take more risks going forward. We can't take as many risks because we just don't have players that can cover large patches of grass. We're very immobile. So once you get beat, you're beat. So we really need these types of profiles. And that's why I also think we really need to look at that 10 position. As much as I like Odegaard, I almost feel like we need somebody a little bit more durable. We need somebody that's pressy, a little bit more aggressive. I'm looking at players like Grealish. I'm looking at players like Bruno Fernandes and Mason Mount. And I'm just thinking, do we really need a modern Ozil? Or would we be better off with more of like a Buendia? Maybe not as poetry in motion, but very effective. And the Premier League is so suitable for sprinty players, very bombastic players. That's why we like Tierney. And I think Buendia would fit that. Whereas Odegaard is more slow and, methodical. And he's a beautiful player, but I'm just not sure if I'm feeling a little weird about it now. AK Gunner says, I agree with an operation in our midfield. We need Bissouma type and Grealish Awar Fernandes type too. And I hope Kroenke gives Arteta the budget we need to rectify our weaknesses in the squad. Yeah, that would be great. At this point, it's kind of like he's gonna have to give us money. I know we'll sell some of our players, but even though the list looks long of players that we'll be able to sell, we know we're not going to sell all of them. We have, Nketiah, Lacazette, Willock, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Bellerin, Kolasinac. I don't think we're going to sell all of them. We'd be lucky to sell like 4, so even with that, 80 million, I think we need a big summer. So if they could at least give us 40 or something, we need a big summer. We really do. Like, the more I think about it, in order for us to catch up, at the very least, we need 3 quality players at the very, very least. Hold on. As I take a swig. Velbashwan says, I'm kidnapping Bissouma. He's going to do the genie role for us. Oh, that would kill me. Shohel says, Arsenal need Tariq Lamptey more than Bissouma. Brighton are not selling 2 players to Arsenal. Lamptey would be the higher priority. I think I talked about this a little bit earlier. For me, I think the money that Brighton is going to want for Lamptey, and I don't think he'd be worth it, to be honest. I think it'd be English tax for sure. And this was his first full season as I think as a full first team player. Because last season, I think he left in January to go to Brighton last season. Because oddly enough, he played against us when Chelsea beat us 2-1 at home. And he's been injured for a lot of the time, and I'm worried about his injury record. I think he had to have surgery or he had a setback or something. He's 5'5", which isn't great. I think he's so good for Brighton, but it's different playing for Arsenal. If you guys don't like the fact that Bellerin is not a great defender, I'm not sure you would like Lamptey because he's not a great defender. I think he's a really good sprinty player. but I think we need somebody a little bit bigger and basically a more athletic, better quality Callum Chambers, somebody of that stature, that height, to keep us competitive in the back. And Lamptey for me is not that. I would prefer Emerson Royale from Betis. I think we could get him for like 15 million, and they're going to want at least 40 million for Lamptey. I can just feel it. So Bissouma is the more seasoned player that we know what we're getting because he's played at least 2 seasons for Brighton at the moment. So we know what we're getting. Lamptey, I would like to see him come back from his injury, see if he's okay, and then see if he can keep up. Because sometimes when you're just new and shiny, people want to buy you right away, but I'd rather see him play more than one season because he also really didn't even finish out his full season. Taha says we really need a diamond-eyed talent spotter. Come back, Sven. It's going to be interesting to see how they recruit, considering the fact that we have no scouts because they got rid of them all. So I'm not really sure what the recruitment method is. I really hope it's not brown paper bags under the table like it was with Raul. I really hope that we actually go out and look at players. But at this point, because we really need to get it right, I would like us to be very careful and look at people first from the Premier League. So at least we know there's not going to be a huge adaptation phase. And we know that they can actually play in this league because it's not an easy league to play, to move to. Yo-Yo said Saka ESR could share the number 10 if the club miss out on European football. That's true. I actually like the way Saka looks in the 10 role. I was thinking that this morning, Yo-Yo. Like, I actually think Saka plays it really well, and he plays it more like the type of 10 that I would prefer, a little bit more sprinty, a little bit more. I like my attacking midfielders to be pretty basic. Like, I don't need them to be super. I don't need it to be poetry in motion. I need it to be effective. And I think Saka is effective. He may not be the most, it may not be so beautiful, but I like the way he plays it. But I think we need Bissouma. And I think he would come to us without European football. I do. Dave, yes, I agree. Lamptey is injury prone and not a great defender. Lamptey is basically what Bellerin was before he lost his speed. Exactly. Taha says, so you want a young Sergio Ramos? Is that what I mean by like right back? I thought when Sergio Ramos was a right back in the day, I think he was like a fullback. I thought he was good, but yeah, I want a more physical person that could probably play more like a pinched in, midfielder. I like that look. I'm not really looking for overlaps, to be honest, but that's just me. Arteta can come out and say, you know what, I want Lamptey, and that just be the end of it. But I like Emerson Royale. I like him. You guys know I like Denzel Dumfries, but I know the Dutch league is not really a good place to look for talent, not talent coming into Arsenal, maybe talent, if you want to get them for a lower level Premier League team, but not for Arsenal when we need to get it right. So Shell says, who also left back is a priority. Tierney is too injury prone. So do you guys think that what do you guys think about the left back situation? Because we're just talking about anything now. The left back situation for me is like we need somebody. I don't think we need just somebody that can do a job. I think we need somebody that can actually fill in for Tierney and we can feel confident in it. And obviously somebody left-footed, and I would prefer them to be younger. I would stay away from the Van Arnholts and the Ryan Bertrands that are going to want 4-year contracts on huge money, and they're like basically at the end of their career. So maybe we could go after, I know that we had a deal almost, it was rumored that we had a deal pretty much wrapped up for Junior Firpo. So what do you guys think about that? He could be a backup left back. I know he's not that great, but I think it would be better than Bertrand. What do you guys think about that? O'Shane says Max Aarons is a better shout than Lamptey, in my opinion. I think Max Aarons is underrated, and you could just see Bayern was really interested in him. They just didn't want to pay the English tax. That's the reality. They could pretty much get any good young right back in the Bundesliga, so they really didn't need to pay that English tax for Max Aarons. But that's who they wanted. I think he's really underrated. I like the way he works hard, and he's a good age. He's not the biggest, but if I had to choose between him and Lamptey, I would definitely take him. The issue is now coming up with Norwich. They're going to be able to ask higher price tags or higher prices. Originally, they were asking for like 25, so I'm not sure if that would change, but I do rate Max Aarons. I think he's a good player. James Justin, I see that, you guys. I think James Justin is a really good player, but is he going to leave Leicester for Arsenal? And what about that injury? Has he come back yet? Walker Peters. Isn't he a Spurs? Well, didn't he come from Spurs? Do we really want a Spursy type guy at our club? No. Yeah, Walker Peters is pretty good. Wouldn't want him as a starting right back for Arsenal. O'Shane says we won't get Hakimi from Inter, seeing that they won the league, so Max Aarons is best choice. I think Hakimi also just signed a new contract, or he's going to. Hakimi was so out of our range. I think we would need Champions League for him, and so yeah, Max Aarons is a good shout. ADT says Firpo would be good. I mean, he's not like amazing, but I think in our circumstances, it wouldn't be that bad to go after somebody who, is at Barcelona, is not being used, 24 years old, can play left and right back, so as a backup left back, I would take him. Max has better end product than Lamptey by far. Lamptey is also one of those that likes to get into those good areas, and sometimes he doesn't have the best cross or the best shot. I think he's still developing. He's not somebody that I would spend a whole lot of money on, to be honest. And I just feel like we need to go in a different direction. That's just my feeling, But let's talk a little bit about these scandalous rumors about Wojciech Szczesny. Oh yeah, just in case you guys missed it, I said that I think it would take about 30 million for us to get Bissouma, which I think is doable, if we sell a couple players or something. But there's rumors going around that Szczesny would want to come back to Arsenal. Donnarumma is running down his deal at AC Milan. He's out of contract at the end of the season, and Juventus wants to bring him in. So that means Szczesny is out of a job, and he wanted to come back to Arsenal. I think that's so hilarious because, first of all, I don't know if Arteta would want one of his old teammates back at Arsenal, but I just don't think he was that good of a goalkeeper. I know we're pretty down on Leno right now. There's a lot of people that are down on Leno, but let's not revise history here. No goalkeeper that's been at Arsenal since Jens Lehmann has been any good. Not Ospina, not Almunia, not Szczesny, not Cech, none of them. Leno's been the best goalkeeper that we've had since Lehmann, and that doesn't mean he's as good as Lehmann, but I mean, Szczesny, could you imagine Arteta running through the locker room trying to figure out where the cigarette butts are coming from? Like trying to find the smoker, no. But I think it's just an interesting conversation, just considering that now we're starting to see kind of like a wildfire of rumors coming out about Leno leaving this summer. And if Leno does leave this summer, I think that would be a little disheartening considering that Arteta kind of backed him this summer with the whole Emmy thing. And if he leaves just like a year after, that would be kind of like, wow, and I don't know if there's underlying things happening. There was rumors about him not getting along with Inaki, and the goalkeeper coach that he was close to is the one that left. So I'm not sure if that has something to do with it, but he has 2 years left on his deal. And this would be a really good time to cash in on him if we actually wanted to. So what do you guys think about replacing Leno this summer? Do you think it's harsh? Do you think it's just recency bias because he's not playing that well? I mean, he's doing okay, but he's not at his best. What do you guys think about maybe Leno leaving this summer? Personally, for me, I think we need another goalkeeper. I was kind of hoping that we wouldn't have to, replace Leno until the season after, the summer after. but it just feels weird. It feels murky. It doesn't feel like it hasn't felt good since the Martinez situation, and it feels like it may have rattled him a little bit. Things are changing. I think in the football world now, I think teams are looking at the goalkeeper situation as something to improve upon. In the past, it's been the number one is light years ahead of the number two. Now you're seeing that number ones are being, booted out of their starting position by number twos, and there's some more competition there. And I'm not sure if that's the kind of environment that Leno wants to be in. And he's just also the type of goalkeeper that I think does well when we're getting battered, and we just need him to be clicked on for the one time that somebody, because I mean, we control possession in at least 60 to 70% of all the games that we play. The only teams that I can think of that pass around us like we're not there is like Man City. If teams have long spells against us, it's very few and far between. A lot of times they allow us to have the ball or we just have it. So if you have possession, you need your goalkeeper to be your distribution. They need to start moves from the back, and he's not the best at his distribution. The more we play out of the back, the more shaky he looks. And when we had the two blunders, one with Xhaka and one with Ceballos in close succession, we stopped playing out of the back completely. And I think that's because Leno wasn't comfortable. So, but that's what we need. We need a goalkeeper that's comfortable with the ball at his feet. And the one time that somebody shoots, we need them to be clicked on enough to make the save. And he hasn't really been that. You look back to the Everton game, that was exactly what happened. The one time that we needed him to save us from a goal, he couldn't do it. So I think it's kind of like, recency, and a lot of people never got over the Martinez thing. But if he left, I wouldn't be upset as long as we got what he's worth, which is about 40 million. Dev says if Leno leaves, then the management does not have a clue about how they are evaluating talent. Jacobus says, we seem to forget Leno carried the team back in the previous season. Yeah, I think a lot of it is recency. Leno has not ever been my favorite goalkeeper. I can definitely admire the things that he's done. I think he's been good for us, but he's not my favorite goalkeeper because I just don't feel like he commands his box the way that he should. He's not loud enough for me. And so that's just me. And I've always felt that about him, but he has been our best player, one of our best players in every single season that he's been here. But his time at Arsenal has coincided with the slide and the decline of Arsenal, where we don't have as much possession, where we have a lot more shots against. I mean, one of the identifiers of Emery's Arsenal was getting battered by shots, and not controlling possession. So I think him being good in those moments is indicative of where we are as a club. And we're trying to move away from that. So it's not really that surprising to me that we may need a different goalkeeper. Taha says we have too many issues in the squad to be concerned about Leno. Yeah, it's not ideal to be looking at a goalkeeper right now. And I can't even begin to think of good options, for us, because this is not something that I think we need to be looking at right now. Io says, Leno leaving feels weird. In what way, Io? In what way does it feel weird? Dev says, letting Martinez go seems like a really stupid decision. I mean, we're very reactionary, so I just think we don't think ahead. We're always very reactionary. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got rid of Martinez because there was some money there and we didn't think long-term that maybe Leno would be ready to go. But I think they were trying to rectify. To remember, Edu and Arteta were pretty much doing their job for the first time, in that summer. So they were probably just kind of flailing and panicking. And the Martinez thing seemed like, okay, the money is there for Martinez, so let's take that. He doesn't want to be a number two, so we'll just take that. But now we're potentially, and you guys, it's still just like rumors, so it may not even come to fruition, but the rumors are catching fire to the point where I'm like, there has to be something to this. And I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to leave. All the players that have been a part of the decline of Arsenal, not saying that it's their fault because they didn't recruit themselves, but there are players in our squad at the moment that are synonymous with the decline of Arsenal over the last 5 years. Leno is one of them. He's been here the entire time. Aubameyang, Lacazette, Xhaka, they've just been here. Bellerin. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were just over it. They're just over it. They're over. They came in when it was Arsene Wenger, and then they ended up with Unai Emery. They've been battered online. The fans don't like them. They like Aubameyang, but the other players have been kind of talked about at length by the fans, and maybe they're just tired. I wouldn't be surprised if Leno wasn't just ready to do something else. Yo-Yo says if Leno is sold after selling Martinez, then Edu and Arteta should no longer be trusted with shaping the squad. I don't think. Yeah, I get you. That would be a bad look. I don't think it would come off well because then we could have just rode out the season and kept Martinez. So I kind of agree with that. Does anybody know where we use the 15 million that we got for Martinez? Because we got Thomas Partey, but we know that money came from them basically taking out the money from that confirmed account, that account that they have that has to have 40 million in it, and they just replaced. So is that where the Gabriel money went, or is that how we paid for Gabriel? Because was it worth it, to get rid of Martinez? I don't know. ADT says sell Leno if a bid 30 million comes in. If not, just keep him. Yeah, for sure. I would like to keep him for another year just so we don't have to deal with this, because we have so many other positions that need to be addressed over the summer. It's such a big summer for incomings and outgoings, and a goalkeeper outgoing is just not, it just seems so premature. ADT says Matt Ryan should be given a chance, to be honest, but we still need to get another goalkeeper if we let Leno go. Yeah, if we let Leno go, we need to buy another goalkeeper. We can't let Leno go and then have Ryan as our first choice. That would be such an Arsenal move that would definitely kick us in the butt. I could totally see it kicking us in the butt, Matt Ryan getting injured, or him, because we have a small sample size of Matt Ryan. I think he lost his place to Sanchez at Brighton. So we can't sit here and act like he's good enough to start for Arsenal. Probably at the moment because Leno is not in best form, but we couldn't just sell Leno and then keep Matt Ryan as our number one. That would just be a horrendous decision. AK says if we sell Leno, Mike Mignon, I am just guessing, would be a great goalkeeper, signing good on the ball and good distribution. The goalkeeper from Lille, is 25 years old. That would be a good shout. Yeah, that would be a good shout. Io says, I respect Leno if he wants to leave. It's that if that's what he personally wants. He has talked a good game about not being good enough in games. So sometimes you have to change something for your own good. Yeah. Maybe it's just a change the scenery. I think that's the Bellerin thing. I know he loves Arsenal, but he may just want to do something else. You've been somewhere for a long time. You may love the club, but you maybe just want to do something different. And being at Arsenal is stressful. Being at a Arsenal period is stressful. Being at a poor Arsenal has got to be stressful on these players, that came here to play. A lot of them played under Arsene for like a month, 6 months, a little bit of time, then ended up here under Emery. And it hasn't been good for them. It really, really hasn't. I mean, we got rid of the first wave of Socrates, Mustafi, and Kolasinac and Ozil. There's still more players that are just kind of in that group. And it's not because they're good players. I don't think they're horrendous players, but when you don't build the squad in a cohesive way and you're just buying players to buy them, then they don't work. Don't be surprised, and these players are just kind of to me, just the result of bad squad building. And we batter them, of course, because they're the players and we expect them to be good. But there should be no expectation of these players than to just go out there and play. They're never going to come together. They're just players that we bought and they don't go together. So I can imagine for them, it's probably frustrating. I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to leave. Like, you know what I mean? Lacazette too. I just think he is the quintessential, like, he is bad squad building. Everything about what his Arsenal career has been bad squad building. You don't bring in a $50 million striker and then bring in a Aubameyang 6 months later and don't think for a second, do these players play well together? You just don't do it. You either build around Lacazette or don't buy Lacazette and bring in a Aubameyang. So I don't really blame Lacazette for him not succeeding at Arsenal to the way that we've expected him to, because how could you expect that? It's just bad. So this group, they need to be moved on because obviously they don't fit the plan. But I wouldn't be surprised if they just wanted to leave, because who wants their Arsenal or their career to be defined as being one of the worst Arsenal teams in history? I know I wouldn't. Tony says, I don't think Leno feels like he's been treated well by the club. Second to Czech, then carries the team for a year, then not really named number one after a few months of Emmy. I mean, they did name him number one. That's why they sold him. I mean, if that's all it takes for Leno to feel like he hasn't been treated well, to have to win his spot against Czech, somebody who's been a long time one of the best goalkeepers in the world for years, to have to win your position from him and then losing your spot to a number two and then having to work back from it. It just, that to me, that statement seems like I don't want to have to fight for my position. And that's just kind of like the vibes that I get from Leno, is he wants to be the guaranteed number one, because every 10 seconds he's looking over his shoulder and there's somebody there. Look, if that's what you want, then go to a different team, but I don't really think that it's up to the club to make him a solidified number one. Like, if there's people sneaking up behind you, you have to work harder to not lose your spot. Emmy just did what he was told. He did what he was told, and he did a really good job at it. So I don't really think that. I think the club did everything they could to treat him well. They sold the better goalkeeper and let you be number one. Kurumi says, being at Arsenal is stressful. Come on, so when them get paid, them must give it back. They are not a baby. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but it is stressful. Regardless to what you're getting paid, that doesn't mean that, it's not a stressful job, So again, I don't think that that's like an excuse for them to be crap. I just think that some players are built to be Arsenal players and others aren't. I think there's a certain level of expectation for Arsenal players, for Manchester United players, for Liverpool players, because of the prestige. And these players could never live up to those expectations because they're just not built for it. The type of slander that you get from the fans, the ridicule in the media, nobody gets slated the way that we do, because we're an elite level club that's underperforming massively. So I'm not saying that it's an excuse, like we should feel sorry for them. I'm just saying that some of them probably just want to go, because who wants to deal with that? You go to Schalke, you go to whatever little team you go to in Germany or France or whatever, and you just chill. You can be mediocre. Nobody's going to say anything. But if you're even off your game a little bit at Arsenal, they're talking about you. It's just levels to it. I said, if that's what you want, go to a different team. Yeah, I know that probably wasn't that nice to say. That's what he is probably trying to do. Yeah, I mean, again, I think Leno's been good, but I think the world is changing, and the goalkeeper position is changing as football changes. I don't think we're going to be living in a world where the number one goalkeeper is so far ahead of the number two that they don't ever have to worry about their position. And he had to fight for his position with Czech, and maybe that wasn't the most comfortable position for him. And then he gets injured, and Emmy comes in, and he did amazingly, good enough to play for Aston Villa and be a number one there. So it just feels like maybe he's the type that needs to be at a team and a club that is not going to have any competition whatsoever. So if that's the case, then you need to go somewhere else. Because or be better, like just be better, so we don't have to worry about it. I mean, every single time somebody else steps into that goal, bar Rennerson, we're looking at that person like they might be better than you. That's a problem. Imtiaz says Andre Silva in for Laka. I've been looking at him a little bit, and I'm not quite sure because this is like his first good season for Frankfurt. I think he like flopped at AC Milan before that. I don't doubt that he's like a really talented player, but first year in the Bundesliga, scoring 20 goals in a team that plays with two strikers, doesn't really play a similar system. What if he falls off a cliff, or what if it doesn't transfer, over to the English Premier League? I think he's one of the hottest strikers at the moment, so maybe it would work. But I think I would like somebody with a little bit more of a proven track record, maybe 2 seasons under his belt, keeping up them same numbers. But he is a very good player. Yo-Yo says, who would I sign to replace him? If you're saying for Leno, honestly, I don't even know because I haven't been thinking about it. The elite goalkeepers are going to cost you upwards of 100 million, so that's definitely not what we're going to be going for. I think we'd end up with a younger goalkeeper, to be honest, somebody that's going to hopefully become a world-class goalkeeper. Not quite as young as like Meslier, but maybe something like that. I would hope that we wouldn't go back in for David Rea because he's not that good. And I think we were just looking at him for homegrown quota, to be honest. But maybe somebody like Unai Simon. I think he plays for Athletic Bilbao or something like that. He's probably a decent shout. But I'll do some research and do a scouting video on it because I need to think about it more, because I didn't even think that we'd be looking at replacing a goalkeeper, and we may not be. It's just the way the rumors are coming out. And after his not liking Inaki and saying in a press conference that he would be open to a new opportunity, being 2 years out, I mean, it would be the time to go, so if he wanted to. Let's see. Taha says the striker I'd like to see at Arsenal is Tammy Abraham. I don't think the Arsenal fan base could handle another Chelsea player coming into Arsenal, to be honest. After Willian, I don't think that would be, a welcome transfer. I don't think he's a bad player, but I think he would fit in at like a West Ham or Aston Villa or something like that. Do you think we can win the Europa League? Yeah, of course we can win. Of course. I think like the percentage done by the statisticians is like 31% chance of us going through. Some say 38. So, and a lot of people still think that we're going to go through. So there's people that think that we can get through, and I personally think that we can get through. I think Arteta will pick a better lineup. I don't think you could pick a worse lineup than the one that you did in the first leg. So I do think we can win it. Whether we will win, whether we could get past Manchester United or get past Villarreal, that's all up to the players. I think Manchester United is a different kettle of fish, obviously, than Villarreal. But I think Villarreal is going to be like, regardless of what lineup we put out there, we should be able to beat them. And then we'll tackle the Manchester United thing if we get there. But of course we can win the Europa League. I'm just not sure if we will. Of course we have a chance of winning it. Get whichever keeper Atleti are after. They have a golden touch. Yeah. That's not where Kepa came from, though, is it? Where did he come from? I don't even remember. But yeah, we'll see what happens. It may not even come to fruition. It may not, but yeah. But this has been the Bissouma / goalkeeper podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it and have taken in all of my Bissouma propaganda. You're getting it in your soul. You're breathing it in. These are the same things that I was doing, obviously not on YouTube, but a lot of praying and talking about Thomas Partey before he showed up at the Emirates. And he actually made it over here. I prayed for like 6 months. So starting on Bissouma, breathing it in, praying that he comes to the Emirates. He will make us better. and obviously we're getting towards the end of the season, so more rumors will be coming out. So I'll be doing more of these videos and obviously getting experts in here to talk about it. But yeah, I'll be doing a goalkeeper pod. I know that. And tomorrow we'll talk more about Henri. He did come out and confirm that he is involved with Daniel Ek, not involved, but he's like involved with the takeover talks and all that kind of stuff. And so we'll talk about that in my earlier stream. And then we'll see what else is going up for the day, because I don't have anything structured or anything like super planned, because once we get to Wednesday, it's going to be all hands on deck talking about the Europa League. And yeah, I will talk to you guys in the next one. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and like the video, subscribe to the channel. Really, really close to 1,000 subscribers, and I'd really love to get there by the end of the season. So share this with a friend, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.